On this episode of Still Loading, King Hippo himself. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of the Still Loading podcast. I'm your host, Josh Koval, and today on the show, I have an incredible guest with me. Today, I have an actor, a voice actor, musician, someone who kind of runs the gamut on all these different disciplines. He has over 400 credits on, according to IMDb, to his name. For listeners of the show, it is a video game podcast, so you might know him best as King Hippo from Captain N the Game Master. He's also, oh my gosh, you've done work in Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm completely scratched. No, Grounder in one show, Dr. Robotnik in another, just all over. He's Dr. Light in Mega Man, so many video game cartoons, but you may also know him probably more famously as Optimus Primal from Beast Wars. I have Garry Chalk on the show with me today. Garry, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm having a little bit of a crisis this morning, but actually not too bad, and I think it's curable. So, with any luck, it'll be solved by tomorrow. So that'll be fun. Flat tire. But no, otherwise, I'm doing pretty good. It's a beautiful sunny day out here today, and I'm just up here in my little area enjoying the sunshine. So.
That's good to hear. Thank you so much for setting aside some time for this. I've been listening to the show. As you know, we've been doing this Captain N the Game Master rewatch series. So having a voice actor from the show has been actually a goal of mine for quite some time. But before we get to Captain N and any specifics of that, just for the listeners to get to know you a little better, what first got you into acting? Was it something that you pursued ever since you were a kid, or was it something you kind of happened to fall in love with later on?
Well, the funny thing is that I did a play, a kids play when I was like in grade 2, and I quite enjoyed it in elementary school. And then when I got to high school, I sang in a choir as well, which was fun. And then we got to be televised on a called Ron Morier's kids party on Saturday morning, and we got to sing with my choir on the show, and I was completely entranced with how the set worked and all the big video, because they had those giant video cameras and all the lights, and I thought, this is amazing, and I was quite intrigued by it, and I quite liked it, but I didn't think anything of it until I got to high school and started participating in local theater and musical theater, because I'm also a singer. So there was that, and never thought of doing it for a living. And then one day I went to I was working as a stock trader at the stock exchange, and got laid off along with a lot of other people. And I decided, well, I better go back to school. I got to learn something else. And so I went back to school ostensibly to be an English teacher and anthropology teacher.
Okay.
Two of my favorite things. But one of my English projects was to go down and watch a play at the theater department at the college. And I went there, and they were doing a show called Of Mice and Men. The production value was amazing. The acting was incredible. And I thought, holy moly, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. And so I auditioned. And the person who had auditioned me, who was eventually turned into a very good friend, was a fellow named Anthony Holland. Turned around to me and he goes, well, you've got some talent. All right, we'll see you. And I got in the school. What I didn't realize is they only take 15 students from across the country.
Oh, wow.
To be in the school. And now it's, they're rated one of the top theater schools around with an A+ rating. So we've got foreign students from Brazil and Europe and
Mm.
Ukraine, and we just did a special deal for Ukrainian refugees, and we got they're from all over the world. The
Yeah.
students, so it's been rated one of the top theater schools around anywhere, and I just felt so blessed to be a part of that. And I started actually working about. I got paid. I started getting paid for acting about 3 weeks before I finished school.
Okay.
Because we were
Just
doing
in
a
the nick of
show called
time.
we were doing a show called Jacques Brel's Alive and Well Living in Paris, and it was so popular that they held it over at the school. And
Okay.
because it was held over after we were finished school, they had to pay us. So it was a very small amount, like $100 a week or something, but that was back in the 70s. And I've just been going ever since. I've been, as I say, it's not an occupation, it's an avocation, and just continued on with it, and worked in the theater and basically done everything, singing
Yeah.
telegrams, you name it. I remember doing jobs as a greeter at conventions, murder mysteries, and kissing bandits. Those weird costume telegram deliveries.
Yeah,
Girl
yeah.
clownograms and all that. And did those and everything, but they all contributed to overall experience, and that's basically how I got started in my career.
That so wait, you did like singing telegram stuff. Do you have any like interesting stories from doing that? Did you ever like have to deliver one of those telegrams that it was just one of the most either awkward or like funny experiences doing that, or was it all just kind of like a blur?
Well, there were two. I'll give you two examples. One
Okay.
was quite touching. Was I was sent to the hospital in my clown costume to liven up somebody who was in hospital and not feeling well, and
Hmm.
they wanted to bump up their spirits, and I went and sang Zippity Doo Dah. Yay, bye, oh my, it's a wonderful day, and did that whole thing, and
Yeah, yeah.
went into them at their bedside, and they were quite happy with that, and so it turned out to be a pleasant experience all around, and the nurses loved it. They all clapped, so that
Yeah.
was. And then on the other one, I was playing Fernando, the kissing bandit, with the mustache and the mask like Zorro, and I was at the Secretary of State in Ottawa.
Okay.
That's where I was doing it. And I walked into this massive boardroom, and there were all these people from all over the place. And the Assistant Secretary of State was sitting at the table. And I said, I am looking for Amanda.
Oh my goodness.
And everybody looks at me and they start giggling. And she looks at me and she goes, "You're not going to take your clothes off, are you?"
Oh my
And I
goodness.
said, "No, I am Fernando. I'm a lover, not a stripper."
That's that says two things. One, the fact that she wasn't surprised someone called in like a singing the
Oh,
whole
she was surprised.
but the fact that her reaction wasn't like, who are you and why are you here? Like it almost sounded like she's like, okay, this is something my friends would do to me. But then the more telling thing is like her first thought was, are you a stripper? Like her mind went straight to that.
Great for that. Well,
Oh,
the
that's so
rest of
funny.
this, the bolero hat and the mask and the
Yeah,
whole.
yeah.
But it was very funny, and I sang Fernando's Hideaway. Fernando's Hideaway. And that was a good laugh. So I did that, and oh man, it's like you run the whole gamut. But the greatest thing I enjoyed about that is that everything I did contributed to the overall experience and the overall skill set that brought me here today.
Hmm.
Because I'm game. I was game for everything. I remember doing my very first cartoon was in Ottawa in 1983, and it was called Hiawatha.
Okay.
Now, today, I would never get away with it because of cultural appropriation, blah, blah, blah. But I played Hiawatha, and I played Hiawatha's dad, and I played the villain,
Mm-hmm.
and I played an old lady in it too.
Just all of the roles.
Every role broken, every rule broken
Yeah.
today, but not then. But it was at Atkinson Film Arts in Ottawa. They're the ones who did Fritz the Cat and Heavy Metal and Man Who Skied Down Everest and all those things. And so that was my first experience with cartoons. And I quite loved it. I loved doing all the voices in that. It was for Kenner Classics for Nickelodeon. So,
Okay.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And then when I got back to Vancouver, the first thing I did was look up, what's going on in the voice world, and because I was, branching out into voiceover as well. And one of my first earliest jobs was a thing called Death Defying Plants for IKEA.
Okay.
And there's the Death Defying Plant sale. When even your favorite Diefenbachia is pushing up the daisies. Death Defying Plants. How would I the Death Defying Plant sale? But that was my first ad. But it won an award.
Oh, okay.
That's a great ad. And when it won the award, all of a sudden I started getting more, and I started getting commercials for various things like Toyota and General Motors and Chrysler and all these things, and then more cartoons came along, and I was sort of disheartened because I did a couple of auditions, didn't get them. I said, "What? What do you mean I didn't get it? Didn't get it? But that was brilliant." Well, yes, but not brilliant enough, I guess. But anyway, they had a different choice. So I studied. I watched cartoons. I studied all the voices, all the different kinds of voices. And the next time I went in, I was prepared. And I did some voice matches for G.I. Joe. Got that. And then I did Barbie and the Rockers, got that. And then it just started getting more and more. And then I got King Hippo, which is in the 80s.
Yeah.
From Captain Nan, and plus a bunch of other characters on there. And it just went from there. I started getting series after series. I was working constantly for years and years. And I still stuff now, but
I was going to say a lot of times when I see people who do voiceover, it's usually they stick primarily to voiceover. You branch, like you said, you branch out all over the place. I'm like looking through your credits. You have a wide variety of live action work, like just acting on screen, to voiceover, and as you said, you're also a musician. I was going to ask, like, is there one you prefer more than the other, or is it just kind of like whatever you're kind of like? Either or, it doesn't matter. I like them both.
Well, at one time it used to be like 60% voice, 40% film. And then 1 year it'd be 60% film, 40% voice. These days, more like 80% film, 20% voice. And the reason is simple. The reason is quite simple. It's just age. A lot of the cartoons have really young characters in them, like the teenagers or young 20s and whatnot. And they'll have the occasional old guy, and then when one of those voices comes along, then I'll probably get it. Like it just, I did some Ninjago and Nexo Nights. It was another one, and there's another one I can't talk about that's coming out, a big, the 40 episode or 30 episode show.
Okay.
That's quite funny. And I think people will love it when it comes out. This is enough I can talk about it, but there you go.
NDAs, man. NDAs.
Yeah. They're the bane of my existence. But so I'm still active in that area, but the commercial world has sort of gone by the wayside these days because it's all mostly non-union. And a lot of people are going to Voice Bank, Fiverr, Voices 1, 2, 3, all these sort of online. To me, they're just exploitative. I just find them exploitative because, I remember doing a U.S. national commercial and getting paid like $20,000 for it.
Yeah.
And then you do go on to Fiverr and say, well, I'll do it for $50, or I'll
Uh,
do it $100 or $500, and and people do that, and they've got, so that's basically put us union guys out of business, and
that,
bully for them. I mean, if they can do that, but I just think that I'd much rather be, my union guy, and I cannot do non-union work because it's just, well, I just can't do
yeah,
it.
no, it's because that's how the union rules work. I get it, but I'm with you. I feel like that is really exploitative. It's not the same, but it kind of reminds me of like that push recently with all the AI voice stuff that's been like starting to come up, where it's just
Oh yeah, you hear that on the on commercials and call centers, and
yeah,
you
and
expect on YouTube. Today we have looking at this one. So do you want to be this way, or do you want to be that way? And they sound sort of natural, but
yeah.
they're not natural.
There's some ones that are coming out now that are more, but I don't like that they're pushing it. Like it doesn't need to. Otherwise, you're just like, I don't know. I don't, it's a whole rant of mine. I dislike the AI and art stuff, like whether it's actual, like, whether it's like paintings or like visual art, or whether it's, I don't know. It bothers me that that's even getting pushed, but I could rant about that for hours. Um, what I was going to ask was, what do you find more challenging between, or what are some challenging aspects of both VO and live, like film, like live acting on film? Like, what are some of the different challenges that each of them pose?
Well, for one, for cartoons, for animation, is the biggest challenge is getting it off the page and being consistent from the beginning to the end
Mm-hmm.
of the show, because that happens. I mean, you can hear it in if you watch an old episode of The Simpsons and then watch a new episode of The Simpsons, you can see the evolution of the voice. The voice has evolved from this basic voice, like especially Homer, to the voice that's now. It's
Mm-hmm.
totally different. I mean, the same tone, but totally different voices. And you hear the voices evolve over the course of years, and characters get better and better and more funny at what they do. And so there's that challenge to keep that consistency, and to basically create that world. Create the world in your
Yeah.
head, and then put it on tape so that the animators draw that world, and it makes sense and it works, and that people care about those characters, whether they're bad guys or good guys. If people don't care about you, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
That with film, like I've been working in film for 40 years, over 40 years, and I I love the challenge. I love the technical aspect of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the challenges is what the old expression is, you you act for free, you get paid to wait, because you spend a lot of time waiting.
That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, but I as I've worked in almost every kind of film genre, and when you're doing it, it's like, you hit your marks. You got to get your light right, and you're working with other actors, and then you're working off camera, and you're looking at sight lines. So technically, it's a challenge, but it's a wonderful challenge. And the other thing, yeah, of course, you have to memorize all your lines, and you have to make it. You have to be honest and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important, because the one thing that that people don't understand is that, well, people who don't act don't understand, is that the camera never lies. It looks at you and it catches everything, every eye movement, twitch, whatever, and
Yeah.
hears tone, right? So if you make a dishonest remark or a dishonest performance, people watching, even though they're not trained, they look at you and they go, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
And you say, well, oh, he sucked in that movie. Why did he suck? I don't know. I just didn't like. Why didn't you like him? I don't know. But you don't know. But it's because you didn't believe him. You didn't
Mm-hmm.
care. So it's a real challenge to be in the moment and be a natural and be believable in on screen, because it never lies. And
Hmm.
that's basically it. And you're also working ensemble with other people. So
I hadn't thought of it that way before. Like when you see, like you're saying, like why is someone bad in a movie and you might not always have an answer. I never thought about it. I wonder if there's like an element of the uncanny valley in that, right? Like where we're watching someone make a performance and it's not quite human. Like I understand they are, like we understand they are human, but they're not quite
yeah,
like quite hitting that mark to make it, like you said, authentic. They're not being honest with the character.
that's the thing. Yeah.
It feels almost uncanny valley-ish, but in a little bit, because most people think of it as like, you see a creepy doll and it's so close to being human that it's not, it makes you uncomfortable. I wonder if this is like kind of like a tamed down version of that. It's like they're so close to being a real character but they're not, so you kind of get that bit of an uncanny valley edge to it. I don't know, sorry, that
Yeah,
just
it's like it's very bizarre. It's like you know you don't like them, you just don't know why you don't like them, and it's really annoying. And you said, why don't I like this character, or why do I like when I watched the other night, The Darkest Hour was the Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill.
okay.
And I was watching this movie, I was completely enwrapped, engrossed in his performance and all the performance. There wasn't a false note in the entire movie. And I'm watching all these people, and they were all of them, even the smallest little parts, were so great because they were
Yeah.
so there, and you can't take your eyes off when he does that speech about, we will fight them in the air, we will fight them on land, on sea, we will never surrender. Remember that, all that. And I'm watching it, I'm just getting chills listening to
Yeah.
it. It's just like when you hear a really good singer, you get that thing up the back of your neck, that spine tingly kind of feeling up the back of your neck when you
Hmm.
hear someone who's just really knocking it out of the park. And it's like, that's what it is. It's how it resonates with you. You know, I mean, a lot of people can watch stuff that's, oh, I don't know. What did I watch the other day? That I saw a funny bit. It was one of those video clips that they have on Instagram of, never mess with somebody who, if you don't know what their skills are, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you hear the performances and you just cringe. You go, oh man, this is really bad. Or like really bad dubbing in a foreign movie. But now the dubbing is really good. I'm finding.
It's funny because like sometimes when you're sometimes with the bad dubs, especially for a movie you end up really liking, you almost get Stockholm syndromed into the bad dub sometimes, where it's like, now, like for example, like I love like older Jackie Chan movies, but some of those older dubs aren't the greatest.
Oh no.
And now when I watch it in like the authentic Chinese with subtitles, it's harder for me to watch because I'm like, well, I kind of like this bad dub now. I've been like Stockholm syndromed into this.
No, no.
I know I need to divorce myself from it. I need to get rid of it. But what I was going to ask, are there any roles of yours? We've been kind of talking nebulously about like a lot of the different roles you've had, and we've touched on a lot. Are there any different roles of yours that you feel like don't get enough love? Like, is there anything that like you were really proud of and it just didn't click for some reason, or you don't hear a lot of people talking about it? Because A, I always like checking out new things, and B, I'm sure my audience would too. And I always feel like there's at least one project that like I was really proud of this, but no one ever asked me about it.
Yeah. Well, I really don't know. I mean, I'm very proud of my work on a show called Tribal.
Mm-hmm.
Thought my work was really good in Tribal, and not much exposure about that. Um, I'm really proud of everything I do most of the time, because I just give it my 100%. Everything I do. I give 100%. And it might be a shitty movie or even a mediocre movie, but I'll give it the best that I got. And so to that extent, well, one thing that sort of got me is that I created that role of Optimus Primal.
Mm-hmm.
and people rave about that performance, and a lot of people, but the powers that be have ignored me for a couple of times for the couple of the Transformers franchises.
Hmm.
I've just not even given me an audition or a look or even an ask. Like this latest one, they've hired Ron Perlman to play my character,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going, why do I not get a look in? Do I
Yeah.
not exist? I just don't understand. And so that, and the fans are quite perplexed. I get fans who are mad at me because I'm not doing that show, which is bizarre because they
Like,
think I made the choice not to do it.
yeah.
And I said, no, I was never asked, never given the opportunity. So they gave it to Ron Perlman because he's got cachet, you know.
Yeah.
And me, I don't have the cachet because we don't have that same system in Canada as they have in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I were working in the United States now, I'd be a multi-millionaire because I work all the time, right? But here it's not the same, and I would be more well known in America because I would be promoted more in America. But I'm not one for. I gotta say quite honestly, I'm not one for self promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I do it. I don't, put it out there. I might, put something on my fan page every once in a while, and maybe put something on Instagram once in a while. But I don't really sell myself. So I guess that's one question there. I never really feel sort of underrated because the people that I work with they go, yeah, you're the man,
Yeah.
you know. But because I remember I have coached people and talk people, and it'd take people a couple of hours to get through a couple of scenes of an animation scene to make it good enough that it could be broadcast.
Yeah.
And I will walk into the studio and do 4 shows and be the lead in the show and do 4 shows in like 2 hours,
That's
and do all
wild.
the because that's experience, and that's what happens. You can do it, but no, I've never had any complaints from any show or any series. I just worked. I guess I could. Can I? No, I just worked on a show as a guest star on a hot show,
Mm-hmm.
and they had the directors and producers say, "Man, oh man, I can't wait to have you back on the show." So I'm going. It's all good enough for me, thanks. You know.
Well, what I was meaning by before was something like a project that you worked on that was underloved. It wasn't necessarily about your performance specifically, but I was more or less going at like maybe there was a show that you loved working on, and that show specifically just didn't, like you said, tribal, like that show, you love how that show is. It just maybe it's just not catching on. So I was trying to bring more awareness to like a specific
Oh,
project type of
another
thing.
show that another show that I did that was fantastic, but it got overshadowed by a Jerry Bruckheimer show called Cold Case.
Mm,
Was a show called Cold SWAT. I
okay.
did for 7 years. I did for 7 years on that show, and 70 episodes or whatever it was. I did a lot of episodes on the show, and it was a brilliant show. It was really, really good, and I got nominated and won best actor in a supporting role in a Canadian series 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just basically just gets unnoticed. It's been overshadowed by Cold Case, and it sort of disappeared. And it was Canada's #1 rated program for years. But then money spoke and
Yeah.
canceled, and they picked up Cold Case, and
That
you know.
the rest was history. Now to get into something more specific, I've been talking about it all throughout the episode. Captain N the Game Master.
Yeah.
First want to know because my friend Dexter and we've been doing this rewatch series on the podcast where once a month we watch an episode of Captain N the Game Master, and then we devote a whole episode to talking about it. Usually our episodes are 50 minutes, which is twice as long as the actual episode of the cartoon, which I find like just breaking down the lunacy of it. It's um the funny, the good parts, the bad parts, things we liked, things we didn't like. It's been a lot of fun. And one of the things we have consistently come back to is we love your role as King Hippo. Just for the character is just insane. Like King Hippo and Eggplant Wizard are just some of the goofiest characters we've ever witnessed in cartoons, and just
What do you mean?
that's, and actually, in speaking of Eggplant Wizard, Dexter, one of Dexter's questions that he had for you was, did you ever get to record in studio with Michael Donovan, the voice actor for Eggplant Wizard, and did you get to ever improv together with him?
Oh, yes. Michael Donovan and I have been working on cartoons together for 30 years.
That's wonderful.
And I have worked with him as a fellow voice actor, and I've also worked with him as a director.
Mm.
He directed a lot of the shows. He directed a lot of the shows I was in, Conan the Barbarian, and I think Littlest Pet Shop, Transformers, Beast Wars, Beast Machine, Reboot. Yeah, lots of different shows that we've done over the years, and yeah, we used to have some fun. I just remember. Excuse yourself, pig. Mother Brain's gonna kill us. Just slay me because oh, come on, Mother Brain. But I always remember that. And
One of my sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No worries. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of my favorite jokes is just you kind of riffing there reminded me of it. There was an episode where you guys it was like there was a genie in the bottle, and the final wish of the episode was to turn like Mother Brain and the evil and King Hippo and Eggplant Wizard into stooges, like to make them dumb. And you guys all went into a Three Stooges bit for like the rest of the episode. I
remember, and because I think I played the part of the genie, and I go, oh, what are we going to do? Oh no, I was the mayor. No, I think I was the genie, but he had the sort of Ed Wynn kind of will.
Yes, he did. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh Jesus, that was fun. That was a great, funny cartoon. I really liked it. I liked the stories of it. I liked the story because they were fun, and they weren't particularly violent. And Venus was in that too, and a guy named Matt Hill, he played Captain N. He was just a kid.
Yeah.
And AJ Alessandro Giuliani was the little guy with the wings.
Kid Icarus, yes.
Kid Icarus, that's the one. And oh Jesus, I remember our director going. He was the director's name was. Oh come on, Gary! It's so long ago. I mean, we're talking like over 30 years ago.
I mean, I like a lot of times I'm happy with what you have. Let's see. Does it?
Rosen. Got it.
What is it? Sorry.
Stu Rosen.
Okay.
And I remember him. He was a madman, and he would hit the desk, the transducer, the monitor for the for the director to speak to it in the studio was right where his hand was, and he'd slam it. It'd be like a cannon going off, and it'd be going. And AJ or Alessandro was playing Kid Icarus, and he was just a young kid, and he was putting it out, and he's going, age, more energy, age. And I'm going, Stu, stop hitting the desk. Yes. There's a little short guy, I remember, Stu Rosen. He was also a cartoon actor as well. and him and I worked on a few shows together. We did, I think it was Salty's Lighthouse or something was another
Okay.
show. But yeah, I'll never forget that. But all those guys were great because we grew up with them all, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Matt Hill was just a young lad, and he went on to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, and Alejandro is now a well-renowned film actor and writer, and everybody in there was amazing. Venus is still around. I mean, I see her every once in a while, and Mike Donovan is directing mostly. He lives in Los Angeles now.
Do you remember working with Andrew Cavadas at all? He was Simon Belmont in the show.
Simon Belmont. Oh, for him. I actually talked to Andrew 2 days ago.
Oh wow,
yeah, his birthday.
Oh, that's. I mean, this is going to be out way after that, but happy belated birthday, Andrew! If you, for some reason, listen to this.
No, Andrew Cavadas. I've worked with him quite a few times, and yeah, I remember him as Simon Belmont. Yeah, he was.
It's just so. What I love about the show is that it wasn't afraid. Like, I don't know if it was due to just, it was compared to the source material of the games, a lot of the characters weren't like the games, and I kind of love that. It allowed them to kind of go a little bit further. I know some people don't like the continuity stuff, but like Simon Belmont was this like surfer boy kind of and it was just such an interesting choice. And I don't mean interesting in a bad way. That's not passive aggressive. It's just like, it is an interesting choice, and it just it makes us laugh every time, just because it doesn't fit with the game, and I kind of love that for the show in a weird sense.
Not the brightest light in the chandelier.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I was going to ask that with Captain N. Do you remember what your audition process was like for that? Do you remember going out for that role, or what it was like right before then?
Yes, I think Doug Parker was holding the auditions, and I got a picture, a photo of a picture of the character. And he said, can you do a voice for this guy? And I said, okay. So I looked at him. He's a big, lumbering guy, and he had this big, jowly kind of face. And I thought, I want to make him so different from Eggplant, because Eggplant had, like he didn't have a mouth that fully functioned. So it was an Eggplant, but. I recall I'm walking in, and I went, what did I say? I said, "Oh, please, Mother Brain, don't kill us." Like that. And I think it was that got me the part. Because I did this like a big palooka kind of yeah, the big boxing gloves and all that, and that's what I gave for the voice, and they liked that, and they called me back and they said, "Can you do this again?" And they matched me up with Mike Donovan, I believe, and Mike Donovan was playing Eggplant, and he came up with that voice, and they said that's what we want, and so then they hired me, and I was over the moon. I mean, it was just so much fun. And this is the one thing that I really liked about those early days when we were doing cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
Every single voice in those shows was different from everybody else. When you heard them, you knew, I know who that character is. You know exactly who that character. Oh shoot, here we go. Yeah, okay. I know exactly who that is, and these days I'm looking at a lot of cartoons. I can't tell who's who.
Yeah.
The voices all sound very, very similar. So they're kind of madcap and crazy, but there's not a lot of differentiation, except for maybe My Little Pony is pretty different. I like all the voices in that, and but they like some of the newer ones. I'm sort of at a loss. I love Disenchantment. That's very funny.
Disenchantment's really great. The Matt Groening one, right? The newer,
Yeah,
yeah,
Groening one.
Groening one. Yeah,
And
I
Arcane. Have you seen that?
I don't think I have actually.
It's on Netflix. Wow.
I'll check that out. Okay,
Stories, acting, artwork, blow your mind.
so with as King Hippo, it kind of got me thinking. That voice sounds like it might. Is doing King Hippo? Is that tough on your vocal cords? Is that like tough to do that for long periods of time?
Not really.
No, because
No, I mean, now it might be a little tougher on me because my vocal cords are older. But back then, I could do that voice all day.
I've gotta love King Hippo. Um, it just when I heard it, it sounded like something that would like it would tire out your vocal cords fast. So that's kind of interesting to me. Like it doesn't. Do you have any characters that you've done before that like it would be hard for you to maintain after a while? Like it's something
Oh,
you could only
orcs.
do for short bursts.
The orcs on War Planet's video game.
Mm.
Attack! Because all that.
Yeah.
I could do that for a couple hours, and then I'm done.
I do not blame you. And since we are still on Captain N though, Dexter, one of the other questions Dexter wanted me to ask was, did you ever play any of the source material that the show was based off of? The Punch Out video game for the Nintendo. The character is King Hippo. King Hippo is based off of a character from the video game Punch Out. Did you ever play Punch Out, or have you ever tried it? No.
I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I've only ever played one video game.
Which
and
game?
That video game was the Rory McIlroy Pro Golf.
Oh, you're a big golf fan, right? You're an avid golfer.
I have a golfer. Yeah, and I have never played a video game.
You don't worry about that.
No, I've watched them. I just find like my son-in-law plays lots of video games, and he loves his video games. And he said, "Oh, come and play with me." I get on the game, and well, what does what? How does this? And shit, I'm dead. Said, well, crap, I'm dead. Oh, I'm dead. So I can't even play the game. I get like 30 seconds in, I'm a dead man. So
they've games have come a long way where it's like now there's an easier way to like it can ease people into it, but it is very much like if it's not something you're used to, then it is brutal. It's like you're in and then you're out in like 2 seconds. You don't have a chance.
It's all the controls, the different controls.
Yeah.
From this to that, like the Star Wars game. Oh my God, it's tough. It's like I look at them going, how do you even know what you have to do? And then there's the ones, like the Call of Duty and all those. My brother played those, online with other people, and see him get really mad. You sniped me, man. That's cheating.
People get
no.
Oh, that's funny. Kind of getting off of, I have one final question kind of related to your work. And once again, it's from Dexter. Then I have a couple more personal ones to ask you. This is, since I didn't bring here, I don't really have a good transition for this. This is in regards to Beast Wars and your role as Optimus Primal. Do you approach your performances of Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal the same or different because they're different, or do you consider them different characters completely?
I consider them different characters. I mean, I try to imbue both characters with the character traits that we want for Optimus. But Optimus Primal is, it's sort of mammal based, and Optimus Prime is robot based. So monkey, truck, not monkey.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that when I did the trilogy, the Unicon trilogy, I think they wanted me to sound like Peter Cullen, but in my ego was no, I'm doing my way. But I liked it. My way sounds okay too, but it wasn't the same as Peter Cullen. So but I can do that, no problem. It just takes a few minutes to get into the character, and there you go. But yeah, no, I approach them both the same way. The same. It's the story. The story sort of directs where you go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like you can't impose something onto the story. The story has to take you, not you take the story. You know.
Mm-hmm. No, I 100% understand.
Yeah.
So now on to some non-work related questions. Music. You are obviously we were talking a bit off mic. You are a musician, and you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, and off mic you were playing a little piano for me. I heard that you can play a guitar. You're a lefty, but you can play a right-handed guitar without restringing the string. Or you can play a guitar without restringing the strings for a lefty.
That's right.
How did that come about?
When I was a kid, I was living in a group home, uh, and a couple of the guys played guitar, and they all were playing. I said, I want to learn how to play guitar, but I knew nothing about a guitar. We were out in the boonies, right? And I knew nothing about a guitar. So I picked up my friend's guitar, and I thought, how does this work? And then I saw a book, and where I learned how to play was off of Bob Dylan's Black Book.
Mm.
It was a songbook with all his early songs in it, and it had all the chords and chord diagrams. And I thought, oh, well, so if I put this and this like this, oh yeah, and the high strings are up, low strings are down. That makes sense to me. So I'll just play it that way, and that's how I played. And then when I discovered that there was such a thing as a left-handed guitar, too late, because I'd already figured out how to play, and I can play almost anything that a right-handed guitar player can play. There's certain chords. An F major 6 is a bit tough for me because of the way it's shaped on the neck.
Mm-hmm.
Walking basses are sometimes tough because the palm of my hand covers the bass strings rather than fingers. So,
Mm-hmm.
but other than that, I just compensate with different things. My style of playing is all about compensation. But apparently it does quite well, and there's a few people out there who are, Dick Dale, the guy from who did In the City, dun dun dun, that guy, the surfer
Mm-hmm.
guy. He plays upside down. There's another session guy named Eric Gales who plays upside down and is one of the best guitar players around. He's brilliant. So there are several of us who play the guitar upside down and backwards, and it's just adaptation. That's all. There are certain for a classical style guitar. Don't forget it. You have to be a right-handed. I mean,
Oh, okay.
you have to play the other way just because of the way the classical music is written for a right hand person.
Yeah.
Left-handed, so that's a bit tough. But just for my own accompaniment, because I'm primarily a singer, and I can play all different styles of music, and very little limitation except for certain chord shapes. That's it.
What types of genres of music do you normally listen to? Like, what's your go-to thing if you're turning on the radio or putting on some type of music? Whether what's your go-to artist or genre?
Like this. I like playing that. I like playing blues. I like playing. Like that. I play. I'm a big R&B guy,
Mm-hmm.
big blues guy. I play different styles. I like folk music, a little bit of country, but mostly my big one is R&B and the blues. I'm a
Okay.
big blues guy. Yeah, I'm one of these, I've liked that kind of music and all these, that, you know.
Listeners, I don't think you were expecting to get it serenade with a concert this episode, but you did. In fact, you got a concert for free. So go follow Garry on social media later and thank him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just love playing, and I sit up here and I canoodle around. But I'm just now, well, for the last year, I've been studying theory and reading notation, and
Yeah.
man, what a difference it makes. It's like it's pretty amazing what you can do, and so I'm really enjoying that because even though I can't play it on guitar, I can still do the classical stuff on piano, which is just fun. But yeah, I just like it because that's what I do. I was always a musician before I was an actor or anything else, and it's my go-to place for peace and quiet. I went and did
Mm-hmm.
did a concert out in Birmingham last month at a Transformers convention,
Okay.
and it went very, very well. People they went a bit wild and liked the stuff that I did, and so I just every once in a while I'll do that, go play for the gang, and I perform every Tuesday night.
Wait, you do perform every Tuesday night somewhere?
Every Tuesday night, I go. There's a little place down the street called the Corduroy, and my friend Don and myself, and Antoine and Stan, we get up there and play music every Tuesday night.
Oh, that's
Have done
awesome.
the last 13 years. Yeah,
If I'm ever in Vancouver, I will have to check that
yeah,
out.
yeah. It's really fun. We have a good time. Open mic and uh, and and Don. If you ever look Don up, Don Alder on the internet, he's probably one of the world's greatest fingerstyle guitar players.
Okay.
An amazing player, and he's just think of Alder the tree, Don Alder, and watch him play. He just came back from a tour of Germany. He's been in Germany and Europe for the last 5 months touring,
Wow.
and he's just he blows my mind without a doubt. Just an amazing player. But
Well, I'm going to start wrapping things up here, Garry. I have two final
okay.
questions for you. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
you
for
bet.
spending some time with me to this afternoon, this morning for you. This has been a lot of fun for me. I have two final questions, and I've been starting. This is a thing I've started this year, ending my interviews with these. One is I'm a huge fan of Alan Alda's podcast. Alan Alda has a podcast called Clear and Vivid, and he ends each of his interviews with seven quick questions that people answer quickly. I'm not going to ask all seven questions. We'd be here for a while, but each one I always find is pretty unique and different. So I heard you're an avid reader, so I thought this question was appropriate. What is a book or which book changed your life?
Which book changed my life? Fiction or nonfiction?
Either or, can be either or.
Um, Isaac Asimov, uh, Rendezvous with Rama
Okay.
was
I
an amazing book. And also the other one was Stranger in a Strange Land, and Robert Heinlein. And that's science fiction, but one book that really affected me back in the day was a book called Siddhartha
mhm.
by an author named Herman Hesse, which was
I'll write that down. Sorry, go on.
Siddhartha. It was all about Gautama Buddha, and it was a pretty amazing story. And I actually went on to read a lot of his books: The Glass Bead Game, Magister Ludi, The Glad Bee Game, and Steppenwolf, and all these. They're just, they're books that inspire you. And I was reading another one by Yukio Mishima called Confessions of a Mask, but then I found out he was a hardcore Bushido kind of crazy man
Oh,
from
gee.
Japan who had himself beheaded, who
What?
committed seppuku and had himself beheaded back in the day. And I'm like,
Wow.
dude, this was probably in the 60s or late in the 70s. And I thought,
Wow.
dude, you're just a weirdo. And when you read his books, it's kind of, I'm going, yep, the guy's a weirdo. So, but it was, there were interesting stories, interesting books. I mean, I cannot tell you how many books. I've read all the Stephen Kings. I've read all the Gerald Seymour. Gerald Seymour to me is probably one of the greatest writers of all. And Stephen King, probably the most underrated writer. I mean, he's a bestseller writer,
Yeah.
but I'm reading his latest book called Fairy Tale. Oh my God. What a great book. What a great read. I mean, it's just like, damn, that's a good read. I mean, and I have some books where, you pick up the book and you go, just one more chapter. Just one more chapter. It's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're trying to go to one more chapter. And I've had a few like that. So I have a habit of, if I find an author that I really like, I will read everything by that author.
Mhm.
Like I've read all of Gerald Seymour, I've read all of Stephen King, Craig Thomas, I've read all of his, read all of Stephen Leather, read all of what's his name? Daniel De Silva.
Okay.
God, all these guys are just, they write such great stories, And the guy who wrote the shit, I suffer from sometimers sometimes.
No, it's all good.
Soldier Spy, the guy who wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Okay.
Read all of his books. I read Nicholas Montserrat, all his books. I got to tell you, I used to be crazy reader. I used to read 3 books a week.
John le Carre was the author of
John le Carre, yeah,
John le Carre.
amazing writing, and that's what I feel is being missed these days, especially for young people. Because young people, my ex-wife, never read a novel, never read a one. One technical books, but no novels.
That's it. It's interesting. So, like, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest reader, but I have read novels and I actually want to get back into reading novels. I'm just bad at time management. That's the thing. It's not that I don't have time. I'm just bad at time management. So,
well, the thing is what I do is when I'm lying in bed, I'll read a chapter or 2 chapters.
I need to start doing that.
Put it down and put it down. That's perfectly okay. The Stephen King book I'm reading now, I'm just reading a couple of chapters at a time, and it's fine because I want it to last for a long time because it's a great read, And I just picked up Lee Child.
Okay.
Lee Child, the Jack Reacher.
Yeah, the Jack Reacher books. Yeah.
I've read every single one, and I just got a new one the other day, and I haven't read it yet because I've got it lined up with 2 or 3 other books, but that'll be my it's either a hotel room book or a set book when I'm on set.
Did
I'd
you
bring him back.
see? Did you watch the new show based off of Reacher? Not the
The
Tom
Reacher
Cruise movies,
series,
but the Reacher TV series on Amazon.
love them. The guy's great.
Yeah, Alan
Pretty.
Richardson, wonderful.
Yeah. My only objection to him is he's kind of handsome. He's very handsome.
It's
But as described in the book, he's all rough and rugged and been beat up and looked like 20 miles of bad road. But he doesn't look like 20 miles of bad road. He looks like saved.
What's even more nuts, if you've ever so Alan Richardson was in another TV show a couple years ago called Blue Mountain State. And Blue Mountain State is basically it's a raunchy college humor, like American Pie-esque style of humor TV show. It's really, and he plays the captain of the football team named Thad. And if you see his performance as Thad versus Reacher, they are 180.
Wow.
Thad is this over the top, like, I mean, it's borderline cartoon. Like he screeches. It's a funny show. I liked it a lot, but it is very over the top, and it's it's definitely a raunchy show, but it's funny. It just so, and when I saw him as Reacher, I'm like, I'm so confused. You're not like, it's just a completely different character. Like it's so far removed from what I knew him as. And I don't know what he's done in between, because Blue Mountain State ended a couple, like a good, like, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So I don't know what he was doing in between then, but just to see that transition is wild.
Well, I thought he was great in Reacher, way better. I mean, I like Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise was so miscast as Jack Reacher.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Cruise is only 5'7" or 5'6". He's just a little guy. I mean, he could never, I mean, they can choreograph it to make it look like he beats the shit out of guys. But Jack Reacher in the books, because the kind of guy who had hands that were so big he'd grab you by the top of your head and lift you off the ground,
Yeah.
That I always picture a muscle-bound Liam Neeson, playing that role. Or anyone anyone knew that, like, who's another one? Play it, Joe Don Baker. Joe Don Baker. There was another one to be a good choice.
Oh, really? I know him from the Bond movies. I would never have thought of him as a
big old gorilla. He's a big gorilla.
Yeah.
But I've seen him in another one called The Getaway. He was very good in The Getaway.
I'll have to check that out then, because I like seeing the other movie. I'm a huge James Bond fan. I haven't read all the books, but I'm a huge, I should say, Bond movie fan. I need to actually read all the books.
I've watched every single one of them over and over and over again.
They're wonderful movies.
Yeah. Never get tired.
But I got to hold myself back. I could talk about James Bond for hours. Final question before I kind of ask you just where people can find you online. My wife, Courtney, doesn't really follow any of this stuff. Like, she follows what I do, but she's not into video games and cartoons and all the more like nerdy stuff that I'm into. So I always ask her for a question, because it's fun to get a question from someone. She doesn't know what you do. She doesn't know what any of my guests do. It's a completely outside perspective. So I call this section questions from Courtney. Questions from Courtney, where I solicit a question, and the question that she sent me for this one: what is your favorite beverage?
My favorite beverage, my absolute favorite beverage, is English breakfast tea.
Okay.
That's my answer. My favorite alcoholic beverage is Proper 12 Irish whiskey. Is my favorite alcoholic beverage. And that's my favorite soft drink is those ice flavored water. Man, they're good.
I don't know if I've had that.
0 calories, carbonated, different flavors.
Okay.
Delicious. Yeah, I love those. But that's that's 3. But tea is my go-to. Like,
that's a good choice. It's a healthy choice too.
Healthy choice. I love my tea, and I do love a shot of Irish whiskey before I go to bed. It just seems to help me get to sleep really quick.
Good choice.
I woke up this morning at 4:00 going, shit. I have to take the garbage out. So I had to get up and get dressed, take the garbage and recycling out because the garbage truck comes at 7. I didn't want to sleep in. So
I feel that there's been some nights recently where I'll be in bed. I'll get to bed at midnight. I'll go to bed super late, lay in bed, super exhausted. I'm like, fuck. And I gotta go outside, and it's a long walk to our driveway. Anyway, let's wrap up this episode. Garry, this has been a pleasure. I've had so much fun talking to you.
well, thank you.
Where can everybody find you online, and is there anything you'd like to promote?
Well, I got a new movie coming up with Josh Duhamel and Kevin Dillon, Norman. I can't remember his last name.
Reedus?
Buddy Games 2, which is coming up, which is fun. And there is another Buddy Games 1. But this is Buddy Games 2. And then I've got a movie coming out with Reba McEntire called The Hammer.
Okay.
And I have a film that'll be on Paramount Plus pretty soon, I think, called Disquiet, with Jonathan Rhys-Meyer and myself in the we're lead roles in it, and it's a kind of a horror movie with a psychological thriller. It's pretty cool, and I have a great character role in it. And I have two shows that are coming up on the film festival circuit. They're playing at the Whistler Film Festival coming up, and that is one is called Exile with Adam Beach, and the other one is called Colorblind, and where I played the lead character in it, and it's a BIPOC kind of a film about racism and color blindness. Funnily enough, it's kind of a great little redemption kind of movie, and I think people will like that. And it made it into the film festival in the Whistler, and that's a big one. So it's doing well, and it's getting good reviews. Got a few cartoons. Well, I got one big cartoon series coming out in probably in several months. It would be several months, and unfortunately I can't talk about it, but it's very funny, and it will be on somewhere somehow. And as soon as I get the go ahead, I will apprise people of it, and I can give you one line.
All right.
The one line is this: "What kind of monster should you be afraid of, children?" And they go, "Well, I don't know, this one, this one." I said, "No, there's only one kind, and that's the dangerous kind." That's it. That's what we do. So just imagine monsters, children, and me.
I like it. I'm excited for it. Is there any social media that you'd like to plug?
Social media, I don't really partake. I quit Twitter.
Don't blame you.
There's too many trolls. I am on Instagram, and I am on Reddit. What am I on Reddit? Don't let me know. I'm not going to even tell you. Yes, u/artistic dash brief 7936 is my online on Reddit.
All right.
I don't know why my avatar is Stewie in a wig and Jackson outfit. So, but and then for things like Instagram, I come on there every once in a while. My Instagram is just Garry Chalk.
All right.
Yeah. And I got lots of stuff under Garry Chalk on YouTube. You just key on my name, and it's like lots of stuff. You can actually see a clip from my very first cartoon.
Oh, really?
It's called Hiawatha.
Yeah, you mentioned at the beginning of the episode. So you can find clips of that online?
Yeah, I posted it online, I think. I've shared it somewhere. Where is it? Oh, yeah, here it is.
There it is. The Legend of Hiawatha.
Oh, here we are. Let's see.
As Majiko is told of the winds that blow through the bowl of the sky, Hiawatha listens. But as the long hours pass,
That was in 1983. And I play Hiawatha, and I also play that other guy,
but nothing of the
his
one
dad.
thing I wished most to hear.
That's wild.
Never returned when Winona, my mother, died. Know that I wish to be near you? Can you not understand that I am not like mortal men, O Hiawatha? The master of
That's so cool.
Playing against myself there.
It's got to be so cool to see some of the work that like doesn't get as that you don't see as much on, like, it's not on like streaming services, but if you go to YouTube, you can find clips from like projects you worked on that you like they maybe don't have a release other places, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's the only place you can find them sometimes on YouTube.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff on YouTube. But now they want to. I can you please put me in touch with a stunt guy so I can see how to get into stunts? And I said, no.
Wait, someone messaged you on YouTube for that?
Somebody just sent me a message. Can you get me into stunts? And I said, no.
What? That's an interesting cold call. Like,
yeah, well, I know lots of stunt people because I'm on the board of my union, and the stunts is a part of our union. And I have a lot of friends who are stunts because I used to do stunts myself back in the day. I don't do it anymore. I'm too old. I mean, you could get hurt.
Even when you're young, you could get hurt.
I've lost a tooth here one time and had some good scrapes and falls, but nothing serious.
That's wild.
But yeah, one of my friends that's named Melissa Stubbs is one of the top stunt women in the world.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you'll see her. She does. She just finished doing the last James Bond movie, I think, and she did he did all the stunts for the School for Good and Evil. She was the stunt coordinator on School for Good and Evil, and she also did. Oh, what else? Oh, like X-Men and things like that. Just
that's awesome.
She's an incredible stunt woman. Yeah. Lovely, beautiful woman. Look her up, Melissa Stubbs, great gal.
I will
have Ireland right now.
I will have to check that out. But let's wrap up this episode real quick.
Yeah, here we go.
For me, as usual, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at StillLoadingPod on all of them. If you want to email me, you can email me stillloadingcontact@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, you can do it in a number of ways. You can give ways. You can do it in a number of ways. You can give it a 5-star rating or review on Apple Podcast or whichever podcasting app you use, because that helps more people find the show. And it makes me feel warm and fuzzy. And I like feeling warm and fuzzy. And you can support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/stillloadingpod for $1 a month. You'll get all the episodes a few days early at better audio quality and access to a patron exclusive Discord for $4 a month. You can get all of that at the $1 level, plus 2 bonus episodes a month. And then for $5 a month, you get everything I mentioned at the $1 and $4 levels, plus access to an exclusive Patreon podcast called Still Bonding, where me and my friend Erica go through Bond over all the James Bond movies. We at the time this episode will be out, Goldfinger will have been released and Thunderball will be out in a week or two. So if you are interested in James Bond, or just me going on nearly 3-hour-long episode rants of my love for the series for each movie, please consider checking that out. Patreon.com/stillloadingpod. But the most important shout out is the Bit by Bit Foundation. The Bit by Bit Foundation is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to put video games and video game consoles in the hands of kids receiving inpatient care at hospitals. So if you want to support them, go to bitbybitfoundation.org and consider donating. And that is all the time I have for you today. Garry, once again, thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, you can see me on Instagram. You can see me on Reddit. You can see me on Facebook. I have the fan page as well as my band page, my music page, and my personal page, which is basically Garry Chalk. So if you click it in there, There's only one other Garry Chalk that I think is on there, and he's from Australia. And we actually met in Brisbane a few years ago, and he's retired now. He's a retired homeopathic practitioner. So yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. You just click my name with 2 R's, and you'll find me, no problem.
And that will do it for this episode. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you all next time.